Hey, what's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL Bike, and today is an incredibly exciting day because Honda just announced an all-new MiniMoto to add to their lineup. You guys love MiniMotos. We know this by looking at our views, but we also love them too. They're some of the most fun videos to make are riding around on little Honda MiniMotos, and Honda makes a bunch of them, but now for 2022, there's an all-new one. It's the Honda Navi, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you everything we know about it, give you all the details, but also coming up on this channel later this week, I'll be flying out to California to actually get it out on the road for you, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna be riding this very soon, but let's jump right into the new Honda Navi. Now, this bike might look a little bit familiar to some of you, and that's because it's actually been available overseas for a few years now, but we're finally getting it here in the States. So let me walk you through what this new bike is. It uses a 109.2cc engine with a V-matic transmission, so basically a scooter transmission. No gears to shift through, you just twist and go, no clutch, so super easy for new riders, and that's who Honda has in their targets with this new model. Now, as far as styling goes for the Navi, Honda definitely stuck more to the motorcycle styling side than the scooter side. And at a quick glance, this kind of looks like a Grom, at least the new Groms. This has the same retro and futuristic design elements that the Grom has, which I'm a big fan of. I like the way the new Grom looks, and this looks very similar. And I think part of the reason this looks so much like a motorcycle and not like a scooter is because it's not a pass-through design. The two true scooters that Honda makes, the Ruckus and the Metropolitan, you step through those bikes, and with this, you're stepping over it like a motorcycle. Just gives it a little more road presence and makes it look like a proper motorcycle instead of a scooter. Now, the best part about this bike is easily the price, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but first, there's a few more things that I need to talk to you about. First of all is this lockable storage box they put right behind the front wheel. If you look up some images of the Honda Navi overseas, a lot of times this is just an open area and it looks a little bit weird with nothing there, but the US model, we're getting this lockable storage pod, which is super cool. I don't know exactly how big it is yet. Again, when I get some hands-on time with the bike, I'll do some testing with that. But for a bike like this that you're gonna be running around in the city doing some errands on, it's really nice to have lockable storage integrated into the bike, and it looks pretty good. It doesn't look like some silly top case that was slapped on afterwards as an afterthought. It looks like it was meant to be there. Now, just running through some of the specs on this new Honda Navi, like I already said, 109.2cc engine, uses a V-matic transmission, again, like I've said, basically a scooter transmission like you'd find in the Ruckus or the Metropolitan. It is carbureted, 16mm carburetor. It has 26.8mm inverted forks up front, which is pretty cool. Single-sided rear shock in the back. And then for wheels, you have a 12-inch front wheel and a 10-inch rear wheel, so handling should be pretty similar to what we've seen on a lot of the other Honda MiniMotos with similar sized wheels. And if you look closely, you'll see this does not have disc brakes like some of the other Honda MiniMotos. It uses drums, more typical with what you would find on a scooter. It holds 0.9 gallons of fuel, which granted is not a very big fuel tank, but this does get 110.3 miles per gallon according to Honda, so you should have no issues getting around 100 miles of range on this. It weighs 236 pounds wet, which is honestly a little bit heavier than I thought it would be just looking at it, but again, when I get some seat time on it, I'll be able to tell exactly how that weight feels. 30.1-inch seat height, which gets narrower and tapers towards you get to the front, so it should be very easy for you to get your feet down on this bike. And it has passenger pegs, which is really cool. The Trail and the Monkey and also the Super Cub don't have passenger pegs. Neither do the Ruckus and the Metropolitan. So the only real MiniMoto that Honda makes with passenger pegs is the Grom. And now we have this added to that lineup. So if you want to throw a passenger on the back, it's easy to do it. You've got the pegs right from the factory. I do think the design is pretty cool. I'm excited to actually walk around it in person and catch all the little details that I might not be seeing on the screen here. But the few things I can see, the forks kind of indent into the front fender. That's a pretty cool look. You've also got a little grab handle on the back for a rear passenger, so that's nice to see. Chances are, if you're a beginner rider buying one of these and you're taking a passenger along, chances are that passenger probably doesn't have a lot of experience on a motorcycle either. So having a grab handle for them just gives them a lot of peace of mind, makes them feel more comfortable. So I think that's really great. And really my main question with this that I'll be able to answer when I go out and ride it is the size. It's hard to tell how big this is from the images, but just looking at it quickly, it does look like it might be a little bit bigger than the Grom and the Monkey, maybe a little smaller than the Trail and the Super Cub. So I'm not exactly sure in terms of size where exactly this slots into Honda's MiniMoto lineup, but that's something I will definitely find out for you guys. I do think this Navi is a very fascinating model. There are so many bikes to choose from within Honda's MiniMoto lineup, and this one sits in kind of a weird spot that hasn't been touched before by Honda. So hear me out. You have the Ruckus and the Metropolitan on one end of it, which are great little bikes. In a lot of states, you don't need a motorcycle endorsement to ride them, which is a barrier for some people just getting into the sport. So the fact that you can go to the dealership, buy one of those, ride it out with a regular driver's license, that says a lot. I think there's definitely a spot for those bikes. Then you have the Grom and the Monkey, which I'd say are kind of more enthusiast vehicles. There are definitely a lot of expert riders that are buying those left and right and loving them. And then you have the Trail and the Super Cub, which are definitely bigger bikes, not in terms of engine size, but just physical size. They're a little bigger, and they're all about style. If you want a conversation starter, something that's a blast from the past, that's where you go with one of those. But this bike's pretty fascinating because number one, it's 110 cc's, so in most places you're going to need an endorsement to ride one of these. So unlike the Ruckus and the Metropolitan, you do need an endorsement, but at the same time it's got a lot more power than both of those bikes, but not quite at the level of the Grom and the Monkey, where you need to worry about shifting gears and operating a clutch. So for a beginner that isn't afraid to go out and get their license and wants something that can get them around town with a decent amount of speed, not get caught up in traffic all the time, but doesn't want to fumble with a clutch, doesn't want to worry about gears, just wants to worry about twisting the throttle and riding and staying out of the way of traffic. Someone like that who doesn't want a lot to think about on their first motorcycle, this looks like it's going to be a great option. I also think even for a more experienced motorcycle rider, this is probably going to be pretty appealing for someone who lives in a city, maybe as a second bike, something to just jet down to the store with and come back, especially with that lockable storage. I think it's going to be really cool for that. What I'm not so sure about is where this is going to play in with the enthusiasts. People are buying Groms and Monkeys, they're tearing them apart, they're making them their own, and I'm not sure this vehicle is going to have quite the same enthusiasm around it, but that's just something we're going to have to wait and see about. Honda did show off some builds they've done with this with Steady Garage and Man in the Box. They look really, really cool. Obviously, people have been dumping tons of money into Ruckuses and Groms and all of Honda Minimotos for a really long time, and we'll just have to wait and see if the same thing happens with this. All right, so there you go, a really practical and beginner-friendly model to add to Honda's MiniMoto lineup, and I think they're going to sell a lot of these, especially to newer riders and to people in cities. But I haven't told you the best part yet, and the best part is hands down the price. MSRP for this machine is $1,807, so under $2,000. That's actually cheaper than the Ruckus, cheaper than the Metropolitan, cheaper than any of Honda's Minimotos in their current lineups. So if you want to get into motorcycling affordably, this is the way to do it, and I give Honda a lot of props for that. It's gonna come in 4 colors, at least to start for 2022. You have Ranger Green, which is kind of like an army green, Grasshopper Green, which is this super fun one behind me right here. If I were buying one of these, I'd definitely go for the really bright one. You also have Red, and a really interesting nut brown. I'm not sure how many people are gonna spring for that, but hey, it's there if you want it. They'll be available in January of 2022, so just a couple of months away. And like I said, I'll be riding one here in just a couple of days, so stay tuned for that. We'll give you all the information you need to know in that next video where I get it out on the road. So in this video, let me know your questions on this bike down in the comments below, and I'll try to address as many of those as I can in the full review. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.